Wait for the other people to join class today. Okay, good morning again. So today is the 24th of February, and we have our due date for lesson 4 Zyvox assessment on the 27th. I can see I have only few people that have been working on this for now. Let me share. I want to be sure. Why is it taking forever to come up? Lesson 4. So you can say, I only have few people that have started working on their lesson 4 assignments. Can say, it is very, very important. It is very, very important we actually start working on this. Like I said last week, that this lesson, specifically the lesson 4, we have a lot to cover. We have a lot to cover. And I don't want you guys to wait until the last minute to start working on your assignments. You may not finish it in a day if you start a day before the due date. You may not. You may not. So it's very, very important you start as early as possible. As early as possible. So here I can always see people working on it. I can always see the number of hours spent. I can always check and see different things you're doing on your assignment, if you're really doing it or not. So uh this will tell me if you need some time more or not, or maybe you're not really working on it, or maybe you literally start towards the due date, towards the end of the assignment submission date. So please take this opportunity, start your Zyvox activities as soon as possible. You'll have, especially for the challenge and participation activity, there's a lot, there's a lot to cover for um, lesson 4. And also, our exam, I think the first exam is next week. So we have the first exam on the 3rd. So these are all, it runs from lesson 2, you'll be from lesson to lesson 4. So you have all the concepts, all the things we have learned from lesson 2 and lesson 4 will be in the exam. So these are the kind of questions, the kind of topics you will be tested on your exam. So it is very, very important you take the time to finish all these assessments as well as taking your Canvas quiz. You can also take the Canvas quiz, you know. You can also take the Canvas quiz from lesson 1 to lesson 4 in preparation for your exam. So we have the Canvas quiz here. So you can, start taking from lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. You can take your Canvas quiz from lesson 2 to lesson 4 in preparation for your exam. So if you have any questions, if you're finding any of the concepts we have learned in the class, you're finding any of these concepts difficult, or you have any concerns on any of these concepts, so please reach out. Reach out to me, let me know. Let me know. I will be more than happy to support you. Like I do say, my role is actually to support you in this class to be successful. This is my first time of teaching the class, and I'm trying to I'm trying to break down concept as simple as possible, as understandable as possible, especially because we have people from different majors in this class with no prior programming experience. So if you think you're struggling with any of these concepts, please reach out. Let me know. I'll be more than happy to guide you on it. So, any question before we start this class? Anything you want to clarify? thumbs up if there's no question so we can start today's class. And I will appreciate if you can also turn on your video, please. I'll appreciate that. Please turn on your videos. Turn on your videos. At least it won't feel as if I'm speaking to myself alone. So let's start today. And I have a very short activity. It's actually very short. Yep, I'm ready to start. Yes, so let's start. You don't have this is the pin. This is the you can also scan the QR code. So this is the pin to the game. So you can join. You can join here. Just join and put the pin. I can see Lake has joined. You can scan the QR code. Okay. So let's join. Just a very short activity. The very short. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Waiting for a few more people to join. We have six. We have six people that have joined. Please use the QR code and the game pin to join. Still missing few people. Mm, yeah. Okay. I'll just start. So, what do you think? What is the output of this code? We talked about multi-way branching statement last class, and this is a switch statement. I'm sad. Only only three people, three people answered this question. I, be, I believe we discussed this last week. We discussed this last week. We will go through it again. So let's say the second question. So this is, I don't have enough time to read. I'm sorry. It's 10. Oh God. Oh, now you have, now you have time. You still have 5 seconds. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, guys. At least, this is a switch statement, and we explained that the switch boolean, that is the switch condition, must be equivalent to any of the cases. So once it's equivalent to any of the cases, then one of the case is met, it execute. Else, it goes to the what? To the default clause. It goes to the default clause. Once any of the statement is not met, it automatically goes to the default clause. So please, let's say the next question. So here, yeah, this is a typical, this is a typical exam question. What is missing? What is missing here? Fair enough. So let me explain here. This is a switch statement, like we said. And the first line, of course, the data type of your switch. And the variable you're checking here is the day. And you're saying if day equivalents to 2. So day is equals to 2. That's your assignment. And we said, what happens? What is the syntax for the switch? Switch is a reserved word in Java. Switch is just like your if in your if else if else statements. And immediately after the keyword switch, you have your switch condition. This is your switch expression. It's the same thing like you're having your Boolean expression in the if else statements. And they are in the syntax for switch, we said it has to start with a case, So case one, then what should happen after the case one? You're giving the statements that should happen if this case one is met. Break, that is, you're telling the system once this case is met, once this condition is true, break out of the entire block of code because the condition is met. However, if the condition is not met, the compiler goes to the case two, and you see, these are reserved keyword case that has to come with your switch statement. It's just a syntax. And say, oh, in case two, I can't see whatever green option is there. Someone covering it. Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry. Okay. Let me explain this and we can, we have another question and I'm going to move this. I'm going to move it from there. It's actually, yep. So what I was saying is these cases are keywords. They're just the standard sorry. So they're just the standard in the standard syntax when you're writing your switch statement. And each statement must be followed with a break, This tells the compiler once a specific case condition is met, a specific case statement rather, is met with the switch condition. That is, once the switch condition, the switch expression or condition is equivalent to any of the cases, break out. And that's why the correct answer is they, because the switch, what we're checking is they, that's the switch condition here. Case is missing because it has to be case one. Case is missing, it has to be case two. And of course, we need to break at the end of each of our statements. And that's it. Any question? And this is the last question that I have. So, is the default clause required? Is a default clause required? No, no, the default clause is not required. However, it is recommended. It is recommended. It's not required. It's just like your else statement. That statement it only evaluate the default or the else statement when the condition is false, when the condition is not met. However, if either the Boolean expression or your switch expression is met, then the default statement is not, or the default clause is not evaluated. So it is not required. However, it is recommended. You have to be careful and you need to, you need to you need to understand, read the question and understand the question before answering. The default clause is recommended, but it is not required because your conditional statement will be executed without the default or the else clause. It will be executed. Once the condition is met, once the expression is true, the statement will be executed. So, however, it is recommended, but it is not required. It is not. I think that's the end. I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure if, let's see. Oh, Lake. Good. Thank you very much. Jonas. Oh, let's see who won this round. Caleb. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Mm. Do you have any question? And like I'm really really sorry. It was the Zoom toolbar that was covering up the options that we have in the question. Any question? Any clarification? No? Please. It's okay. I thought it was my hand. No, it's fine. Uh, please let me know if you have any question. You should be able to use all these concepts, should be able to differentiate them. You should understand the syntax. It is very, very important. Your exam questions will be testing you to trace. You will be tracing code. You will be debugging. You will be acting like a compiler. You will be acting like a compiler. So it is very, very important you understand these concepts and you can differentiate them. So let's go to what we have today. Please don't forget to submit your assignments. They are very, very important. So we have been talking about static and instance method. We have been using different methods and we have been calling methods and we have been using them since lesson 2 of this course. So this class is actually to illustrate and to explain to you how can you differentiate between a static method and instant method in Java. Here you must be comfortable. You must be comfortable in how to read documentation in Java. I can't overemphasize that because it is very, very important. It is very, very important. Um, mm, so what are the objectives of this specific class? You should be able to distinguish the difference between static and instance method. And you must be able to know how to use the math method. It is very, very important. Your exam will be covering the math method. So you must know how to use the math method very well. So what is a static method? What is a static method? A static method is any method. These are methods that we call, oh my God, again, it is blocking. I need to move the shade. How? Now. I'm sorry. Thank you. Perfect now. Can you see the slides now? Okay, thank you. So what is a static method? What is a static method? Okay, thank you. A static methods are methods that we can call without having to create an object. So you can call the method directly from the class. We do not need to create an object to use a static method. However, in an instance method, we do require to create an object. So we are required to create an object. And we use the object, to call that specific method that we want to use in the class. Can you differentiate them? In static method, we do not need to create an object to access the class method. However, in instance method, we have to create an object before we can access the method within this class. And trust me, we have been using this method. We have been using the both method Since the beginning of this class, we have been using this method. And one thing that you will notice in your static method is the keyword static. So let's go to Java documentations. Yeah, I think it's better this way. So Java documentation for math method, your math method, for instance. A math method is a math class, rather, for math class. This is a type of static that contains static method. And because it is static method, we do not have to create an object to access any of this method. In that sense, we can access this method directly from the class. We do not have to call the class itself. Like we do not have to import the class, unlike the scanner method, for instance, because these are inbuilt in most of the modern compilers that we have for Java programming language. So we can directly go from the class to the method that we want to use within this math class. Unlike in scanner class, we have to import the scanner class. We have to call the java.util scanner when we want to get in, because this is an example of an instance method. And we must create an object, a scanner object, before we can call the method that we want to use. Whatever method, we have the string, you want to get string from the users, the value you want to get is a double, you're looking for to get an integer from the user, you have to create an object to hold whatever value you want to get from the user using the scanner class. And this object helps you to call the method that you want to use in scanner class. Do you understand the difference? However, in math class, you don't have to create an object. All you have to do is to call the class math dot whatever method you want to use. So you're calling the math class itself. Once the compiler see math dot whatever method, perhaps you want to use the ABS method within the math class. So it's like you're just telling the compiler, go to the math class and use a specific method in static methods. However, in the instance method, you have to create an object before you can call that method of the class. Any question? Thumbs up if you understand what I just explained. The difference. You have to use an object, you don't have to use an object. And trust me, these are things we've been using. These are things we have been, incorporating in our codes before now. But I need to explain, I need for you to understand the different methods and how we have been using them, so here is just like what I've explained. In the static method, all you have to do is to call the class name. The class name is maths. Within the math class, we have different methods. And you're saying, hey, I want to use the minimum. The mean, this is calculating the minimum. Here, you do not have to create a specific object to use the math class. the method is called directly within the, within the class. But in instance method, we have to create what? An object. And it's just a simple example of the scanner class. You're importing the scanner class and we're creating an object that will hold the value from the user. And the value, how do we store it? How do we call that value we've hold from the user? Then we call the object that we have created to access the method. So this is just a simple example of what a static method is. And you can see we do not have to import the specific class like I explained, because most of our compilers, our IDEs, our programming environments, these are popular, this is common class. So like the Java lang class, the math class, we don't have to call them, we don't have to import them rather. We don't have to import them, we don't have to invoke them separately. They are inbuilt. And once the compiler says the math dot, and this has to be, don't forget your camel case. The class has to be, when you're calling a class, when you're defining a class, it has to be in, the first word has to be in uppercase. Unlike when you're declaring an object or a variable, well, the first word has to be in lowercase. Very, very important. If you use a lowercase m here, then you're telling the compiler something different. Please take notes. And that's why you have to, when you're checking, when you're tracing your code, you have to be patient. You have to be careful, and you must be thinking like a compiler. So if I have a lowercase m here, you're telling the compiler different thing entirely. If you're calling a class, don't forget your camel case naming convention. It is very, very important. And this is an example of an instant method, which we have discussed using the scanner. Here you must call, you must create, you have to create you must create the object that will call the specific method to change to uppercase. And we will go through this. I don't use a specific example because we will go through the character class and the string class before the end of this lesson 4. So we'll go through the character class before the end of the class today, and we will go through the string class on Thursday. So that's it. So the easiest example, the simplest example you have to know is that the static class, there is keyword, it starts with this major keyword static in the documentation. You will see that. So that's how you can differentiate. Oh, this is an instant method. This is a static method, because a static method, there is always this keyword called statics before the method itself. Any question? Can we differentiate how to use them? How we use the static method, how we use the instant method? Thumbs up if you just understand this, and we can. Thank you. So let's talk about the character class. The character class. The character is one of the data type that we have in Java, that we used in Java. And there is a specific class called the character class in Java. So how do we go to this class? You know, you can always access all this documentation from your Java API documentation, and you must be able to read this documentation. This is coming from which class? The character class is within the Java Lang class. And that's one, I told you, most of the compilers that we have, you don't have to invoke this specific class because they are inbuilt and they're commonly used. You have to declare your data type. We have to change from one, you're changing from uppercase to lowercase. You're asking the compiler to check if this character is a digit, if this character is a letter, if these are the different methods that we have in our character class. And trust me, like we said, they are mostly static. They are mostly static methods. They are mostly statics method. Mostly we have statics method in our character class as well. So you must be able to read. So if you want to use a specific method in this class, and you do not understand how to use them, you can always come to this API, to this documentation, and check how is it used. If I want to use the character counts method, that is, I want to determine the number of character value. So it has to follow the specific parameters has to be passed, within this method. This is the structure. This is how I'm going to write this method. If I want to check if it's digits, this is the structure. This is what is going to how I'm going to write my code. So that's the purpose. That's the purpose of why we have this documentation. We can always go back to this and say, oh, this is how I'm going to write this. This is how it should be structured. This is the syntax to use the specific method. So let's go back. So, uh, and do not forget, like when we're discussing the character data type, I mentioned this. Oh, like the letters on our keyboard can be a character, but it just have to be a single value, a single unit. So numbers can be a character. Small letter are different characters, capital letters could be a character. So when we're talking about uppercase from A to Z, they have a numeric value. They have a numeric value. That's what the computer understands them. You can be writing it as A, but the way the computer understands them are in numeric value. Or you can type in lowercase a. Lowercase a is different from uppercase A to the computer when we're dealing with character data type. And they're represented, the representation of a numeric value. So like I said, you can the escape sequence as well. Also, their special character, and it tells the computer. When you use this, when you're formatting your code, your output using any of this character, you're telling the computer what the compiler what to do. The compiler understand this as character, and they have a unit of decimal value. So I want to go through. Let's check before do this. Let's check the different methods in the character class. Different methods in the character class. Don't forget, the character class are predefined class. They are predefined class in Java. Most of the class is embedded in most of the compilers, in most of the IDEs that we have. you do not have to import them. That's just the direct meaning. You do not have to import them. They're mostly static. They are mostly static methods within this class. Please note that the character type are mostly represented by digits. That's how the computer understands them. When we talk about the ASCII, that's how the computer save character data type in numeric value. Don't forget this. And we have different methods you can see from the documentation. From the documentations in Java, we have different methods that we use for this specific class. So if your don't forget how your method has to be in lower camel case. That is the first word from it must be in lowercase. And if you're joining two different words together, the other word has to be in uppercase. The first letter has to be in uppercase. Don't forget this. This is very, very, very important. And the is, the is, most of the IS method, when we're talking about the character, actually works in, it returns a true value. So it's mostly checking our results in like a Boolean expression where we are checking if it's false, or if it is true. So it's mostly it's going to it's mostly returns the true value of our parameters, whatever parameters we have put in within the parentheses. It is very important. This is going to return, is this true? Yes. Is this a digit? Is this a number? Is this a letter? Oh, it is not. Oh, sorry. This is a mistake from the lecture note. Is letter or digits? Or digits. So if we go through the documentation, the right method is letter or digits, not half digits. Is letter or digit. So it's going to return if the specified character is a letter or is a digit. Is it lowercase? So it's going to check. It's working like a Boolean expression. It's going to check if it is true. Is this character you have presented, is it an uppercase or lowercase? So these are the different methods. And two, what are we, what from even from the naming convention, you can see this is going to change from lowercase. So it's going, if whatever case you have, this is going to return a lowercase. So you're telling the compiler, change this to a lowercase. In this, you're telling the compiler, change this to an uppercase. That's what the different methods within the character class is doing. Any question on this method? Any question? And we will look at the syntax in few minutes. So let's go. I have something I want to share. Okay, so we can also, like I said, we can also combine the character types. So this is saying we're comparing and we're testing. We're comparing and we're testing the character here. So we're saying, and we're using what? A conditional statement. Don't forget. And this is our if, else, if, else, if, else. However, I mentioned just in our example before the start of the class that the else clause is optional. It's recommended, but it is not required. Because if any of this condition is met, if any of this condition, either the if condition or the else if condition is met, we do not need, the compiler will not evaluate the else statement. It is only required when any of this, the statement, any of this expression is not met. So we are saying if character greater or equals to uppercase A. And character is what? Is less than or equals to Z. Print this. So if it's, don't forget and the both condition must be met. So we are saying if the character is between capital A, uppercase A, and uppercase Z, whatever character the user has given, maybe you're telling your user, give me a character, enter a character. So whatever character the user has entered, if it's within this uppercase A and lowercase Z, then print this, that the character is what? Is an uppercase. Else, sorry, if if the character the user has given is a lowercase, between lowercase a and lowercase z, don't forget the and statements. It's different from the whole. Here, the both condition has to be met. So if it's within a and z, then print what? It's a lowercase. Else, because character is not just letters. They're not just letters, it could be digit as well. Any digit, any value you have on your keyboard could be a character. So we're saying else if whatever value, you have to declare the character data type itself. And you have to, I have to prompt the user to give us a value, a character value, to enter a character. And whatever the user has entered is within 0 and 9, then we are telling the compiler to print it is a numeric character. So you can actually see how we can combine, how we can use even the character data type for conditional statements. So here, this giving more examples because this is actually declaring. So we are declaring a variable. The name of our variable is ch, which is a character data type. And we're initializing our variable as f. Don't forget, I said this in the last class. When we are initializing a character data type, it has to be in a single quote. However, if it is string data type, it has to be in a double quote. Don't forget. And we're saying f. And the f is lowercase f. So which of this condition do you think is met? Which of the condition? You can use the charts. You can unmute yourself. I know I have the answer down here. I need to cover it for the next class. You can say because the value that has been declared is a lowercase, the lowercase letter f. So of course, it's the else if condition that is met. So it is between the lowercase f is actually between the uppercase a, and it's actually between the lowercase a and the lowercase z. So of course, the system prints f is a lowercase character. Any question? Any question? So that's it for today. I think it's gonna be a very short class today. I am giving you more time to start to continue working on your lesson 4, to continue working on your lesson 4 assignment. You have your Zybook assignments due for Friday 27th. Please don't forget to submit this. It is very, very important. Let me know if uh, you need clarification or explanation on any of the concepts or you're confused on any of the concepts that we have discussed so far, your I will also advise for you to take the lesson 2 quiz, your Canvas quiz for lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4 in preparation for your exams. So please, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until the due dates. I intentionally made the due dates at the end of the semester because I want you to take, and you can always do this multiple times. So this is a way of, a way of lesson revision, or yeah, checking your your knowledge on the concept that has been covered within this 3 lessons. I do not have class reflection for today. Like I said, I want you to take the opportunity of this week to prepare for your exam very well. Let me know if you have any question. I will be more than happy to support you and guide you on any of the questions that you have. And please don't forget to submit your Zybox assignments. They are very, very important. And I have noticed, I think some of us are starting this assignment late. We're starting towards the end of the due date, and there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover. So I implore you to please start your assignments as early, manage your time, and start the assignment as early as possible so you can finish before the due date. That being said, if no question, I think that will be the end of the class today. On Thursday, we'll go through the I think we have for module 4, I also have, after module 4, we also have the exam 1 study guide. So we will go through the exam 1 study guide on Thursday. We will complete the string class, and we will go through exam 1 study guide, saying what you should expect, the kind of question you should expect in your exam 1. And it's the same thing I've been repeating in this class, mostly to be checking your intelligence, to trace code, to act like a compiler, and check if there is, debug, check for logic error, check for syntax error, and also act as a compiler and provide outputs of a code. Is typical example of the class activity that we had before we started to this class. So I don't know how you plan for your exam, how you prepare for your exam, but I will suggest you go through your lesson notes, or your lecture notes are very important, from lesson note 2, from your lesson 2 to lesson 4. Also take the opportunity to do your Canvas quiz in preparation for your exam. Any question? Thumbs up if there's no question, and we can end the class here today. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.